Good morning, everyone. This is Mighty Stream, and I am brought to you by Hope Through Navigation. This is our Hood Recovery Services, Hope offered on demand. I'm excited to do the Just for Today in a meditation with you for June the 14th. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's look here. All right. Hopefully you can see that. June the 14th, maintaining our faith. Wow, that sounds really awesome. This is going to be good. If we maintain our spiritual condition daily, we find it easier to deal with the pain and confusion. Basic text, page 95. When we first began searching for a higher power greater than ourselves, many of us got stuck in our old beliefs or ideals. These range from the fear of a punishing or vengeful God to no belief at all. Some of us felt we had done such terrible things that a loving power would never have anything to do with us. Others were convinced that the bad things that happened to us would have occurred if a loving power had actually existed. It took time, effort, open-mindedness, and faith to acquire a working belief in a loving higher power that would guide us through life's challenges. Even after we come to believe in a power greater than ourselves, our old ideals can come back to haunt us. Major setbacks in our lives and the insecurities such events can trigger may give rise to the return of our old inadequate ideals about God. When this happens, we need to assure ourselves that our higher power has not abandoned us, but is waiting to help us make it through the hard times in our recovery. No matter how painful our loss may be, we will survive our setback and continue to grow if we maintain the faith our program has given us. Just for today, I have worked hard to build my faith in a loving, caring, higher power that will guide me through life's challenges. Today, I will trust that power. That's a beautiful meditation. I want to take a moment of silence before I start unpacking this. I want to take a moment of silence followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please and thank you. Yeah, so my thoughts, my most immediate thoughts, the thoughts that are, going around in the back of my head as I'm reading the first paragraph is, why is it when good things happen to us, we are quick to say, oh, thank you, God, or that God just, shined on me, or we give credit to God when what we want to happen happens. But when we don't want something to happen and it happens, or maybe it happens as a consequence or a result of our actions, I think that we're just as quick to blame God, right? But why isn't that exuberant excitement, faith type energy that we have when things are good still available to us when things are bad, right? Why don't we switch that and say, my faith got me through last year when I lost my son. My faith got me through last year when my mother died. My faith got me through when they shot my nephew down in the streets. But today, because I'm having some medical issue, I feel unloved, unprotected by my faith in a higher power, in God. I feel discarded. Instead, what would be wrong with saying, if my faith in my higher power, God as I understand him, got me through all of those circumstances, surely this is nothing. Surely this is nothing but just another hiccup, another detour in the road. But my faith in God will navigate me in the direction that I'm supposed to end up in. Because I can't say to you, Mighty Stream cannot say to you that you will not go through and need direction. The hardest thing in life, I think, is to be going through a hard time and feeling all alone. Narcotics Anonymous, the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous, is set up in such a way where you never need to feel alone. Before the pandemic, there was always a meeting. Before the pandemic, there were online meetings, by the way, but before the pandemic, there were always meeting places where you could show up at the start time. And if you were intentional about sharing, have a few minutes to share exactly what you're going through and how you intend to recover through that process. There was always a venting system available, a sharing system available, which I think sometimes just knowing that other people understand us and how difficult it can be to go through life circumstances without a drink, without using our drug of choice, without smoking a blunt, just to go through life circumstances without some mind or mood altering substance to put a chill on it so we can come through it without a whole lot of collateral damage is amazing. Because what we've replaced all those substances with are our relationships with others, our sponsor, our sponsees, our step writing work, our meeting attendance, right? Hopefully you have in recovery found your DNA. You found your tribe, is what I'm saying. Hopefully you found your tribe of people that you can connect to. If you're new, you still may be having a hard time. But if you go to a meeting and you indicate that you're a newcomer and you're having a hard time connecting with people, it's highly unlikely. It's highly unlikely, even if you've been here before and you relapsed, or maybe you had some relationships with people in the rooms at those meetings, and there was a high level of dissonance between you and them. Even if you've been here before, more than likely, if you indicate that you are in need of fellowship and other recovering individuals, someone is going to reach out to you. If you ask for numbers, you're very definitely going to get numbers. You might get numbers without asking for them, but I think it's a good practice to say, I would like some numbers, okay? And in getting those numbers, maybe you could also ask, could I give you my phone number, right? It's hard for me to call people I don't know, but if I could give you my phone number, if you think about me, just call me or text me, and that will kind of help me start the ball rolling. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable about where you are. So that was the one thought that came to my mind, is that we're kind of flip-flop. We're very inconsistent people with this faith thing, right? We're very inconsistent because a lot of times, soon as the tables turn and it looks like we're going to be the ones suffering personally, then we start questioning God's existence, our relationship with others. Everyone all of a sudden is the enemy. And in that psychosis, in that failed thinking, right? I would say psychosis, but in that negative thinking, those automatic negative thoughts, now we start having behaviors that are not conducive towards relationship. And so what started out as just being you a little bit down and feeling negative about your situation, now has actions behind it, has circumstances, things that you've done or said that is now pushing you away, or pushing other people away. You're alienating yourself in a sense. And it all generally starts with our thought process. And that's why we need to be able to come into the fellowship and be able to have time. I want to say time. We need to give ourselves space and time to think through everything that comes to us. Eventually, the automatic muscle memory will start leaning more in the direction of the positivity, but you have to do it by rote. You have to do it over and over and over and over. And when you have a mental relapse, you have to have some checkpoints in place that tell you, I need to stop this discussion, this friendship, this interaction, this situation. You need to abort that right now, step back and pull in some of your comrades, pull in some of the people that are not yes men and yes women, but people that genuinely have your best interest at heart and are not afraid of you. And that will tell you, yeah, I understand where you were coming from, but at the end of the day, you're wrong because of your reaction. Two wrongs don't make a right. You don't get a right to cuss anybody out, abuse them verbally, put your hands on them. You don't have a right to start going into your manipulation tactics because things aren't going your way. If it's that bad and you have to manipulate to get your needs met, then you probably should not be in that situation. Okay? So that was my first thought. Now, the other thing that was going on in the back of my head is that even after we come to believe in a power greater than ourselves, the beginning of that second paragraph, our old ideals come back to haunt us. And some of these major setbacks in our lives, right? Some of these death experiences, near-death experiences, end of relationship, divorces, different type of things that happen in our life, we would call major setbacks. Some of them are major. Losing a loved one is major. Experiencing a job loss is major. Financial insecurity is major. Food insecurity, and I add that because now during this inflation season that we're going through, there are many families that are experiencing financial insecurity and food insecurity. So what the reports are saying is that in any given week, there are parents that are not eating. They're not eating a meal, they're skipping a meal to make sure, the parents are skipping a meal to make sure that their kids have something to eat. So there's food insecurity. And so we want to be conscientious of that. We want to be conscientious of that so that we know that this could involve different areas, but there's various areas that would be considered major setbacks or securities. And when we get into those situations, we find sometimes that we start having inadequate ideals of God. Our faith that we had the day before, the month before, the year before, 3 years before in this situation, we are now no longer having that same energy. But we have every reason to understand that in our recovery, our higher power, like that footprints in the sand, our higher power actually carried the weight of what we were experiencing so that we could pass through it with grace. I can't tell you how many people if I've had conversations with, I was like, how did you get through that? And it was like, child, I don't even know. All I can say is it was just God's grace. Like God just carried me through that. Before I knew it, I was like 3 months post sickness. I was 3 months post grieving the loss of my husband or my wife or my child, or, before I knew it, I looked up and I was in a same place, and I looked around me and everything was stabilized. I hadn't lost my home. I didn't lose my car. I didn't lose my bank account. I didn't have to file bankruptcy. I didn't lose my dignity. I looked up, and somehow or another, all these months later, when I came to my presence, my not coming to like you've been on drugs, but I've come to an awareness that I have passed through a very difficult time, and I came out of it on the other side sane, I did not use. I still count my clean time. And the people that loved me, and I was in a relationship before this all hit the fan, our relationships were even stronger. Instead of just me reaching out to people, people were reaching out to me. Do you know I have people in my life that I can literally say, I love them. I love them so much. But if I don't reach out to them, I will never, I won't say I will never, I will rarely hear from them. Right? So there's some relationships that are somewhat, and sometimes that's because they're in their own spiral, right? They're in their own setback. But generally speaking, I have relationships with some people that in their mind, I think that we're closer. They think we're closer than we actually are. What they don't see is how one-sided the relationship is, how one-sided, how often I'm the one initiating contact, right? But what I'm saying is that you come through in some of those relationships that were like that, you come out on the other side and they're even better than they were before. Now they know that you're not afraid to, face a storm by yourself. And because maybe they feel guilty for not staying on top of how you're doing, they want to make sure that they're present in your life on a regular basis, more regular basis. And that's a win, right? That's a win. We don't have to take the L on that. That's a win. And so I just want to tell you that you've worked so hard to get to this point where you're 1, 2, 3 of the steps, right? Your relationship with God is strong. And you can look at all the stuff that connectedness and faith that you had brought you through. I want you to keep that same energy as you continue to go through. It's very important, especially now, that we keep that same faithful energy as we continue to go through things. It's very, very important that we don't go backwards, because we really don't have the security or the comfort, the luxury is the word I'm looking for. We don't have the luxury of sleeping on anything right now. We cannot sleep on any situation. Anytime something comes up that is demanding that you, not demanding, but requires that you respond, if you can respond sooner than later, and it's not going to be a hasty response, it'll be a well thought out response with the presence of your loving higher power helping you, guiding you through prayer and meditation on what decision to make, and is giving you the strength, right? That serenity prayer. This is something that you need to respond to, and you do it, and it turns out, it turns out that you could take a week or you could take a month to make a decision. If you can make the decision sooner, I want to encourage you to make it sooner, right? So I've enjoyed being with you today. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. And I just want to remind you to maintain that faith. That's what this Just for Today is about today.